Hello, beautiful people, and welcome. In today's video, we are talking about prime factoring. We're talking about what a prime number is, how to factor using the factor tree. So let's go ahead and jump in. A factor, or factors, plural, are the numbers that multiply together to get another number. So for example, for a factor, let's write that down. So factors are the numbers that multiply together to get another number. So for example, if we have the number 36, two numbers that multiply to 36 are 6 times 6. Those are two numbers that multiply together. So we can say, because 6 times 6, that is the same number, we can say that 6 is a factor of 36. But we know that 36 can also be multiplied by 9 and 4. That means that 9 and 4 are factors. Now, we can continue doing this until we run out of numbers. For example, I also know that 36 is 1 times 36. So that means 1 and 36 are factors of 36. So typically what you have is you have different numbers that are divisible, or 36 is divisible by those different numbers. So we usually list them. The way we list them out is we do like squiggly brackets, and you start out with the number 1. So we know 1 times 36 is 36, and then we separate them by commas. So what else? I know 2 times 18 is equal to 36. Then we can do 3 times 12 is equal to 36. 4 times 9 is equal to 36. And our last one is 6 times 6 is equal to 36, so we write that number once. So that means 36 has all of these factors, all of these numbers can go into 36 without a remainder. Now, when we're talking about prime factoring, prime numbers, prime numbers are very special numbers because it is, or it has a factor, or let's say it's a number whose only factor are 1 and itself. So for a prime number, we want, so I'm just going to do prime here. We want 1 times the number. And if there are no other factors, no other numbers can multiply to that prime number, to that number, therefore it is prime. So let's do an example. For example, 3. 3 is prime. Why is 3 prime? Because 1 times 3 are the only factors of that number. Now I can try to do more. We're thinking, whole numbers. We're not doing fractions or decimals, but whole numbers. There's nothing else that I can multiply to get to 3. Another example is 2. 1 times 2 are the only factors of 2. Another example is 11. 1 times 11. There's nothing else that I can multiply to get to 11. So a prime number is a number whose only factors are 1 and itself. Now, here's a first thinking bubble for today. We're going to do a note. 1, the number 1 is not prime. So the first number that is prime, you start at number 2. So the first number that is prime is the number 2. The reason 1 is not considered prime because you have to have 1 and a different number to multiply to equal to that number. So for example, 1 and 3, these are 2 different numbers. 1 and 2, 2 different numbers. 1 and 11, 2 different numbers. If we do, so I'm going to write not prime. If we do 1, the factors of 1 is 1 times 1. These are not different. These are the same. And because these are the same number, it's not 1 and a different number. It's not 1 and a different number, therefore it's not prime. So 1 is not considered prime. So the smallest number that is prime is 2. All right, so now what about this factoring tree? So we want to factor numbers into prime factorization. So we're going to work on prime factorization. So prime factorization, this is not going to be a formal definition. This is just going to be my way of trying to explain it. You're going to keep factoring until all factors or all numbers are prime. So let's choose something that's not too big. Oh, let me actually pause here for a moment before we continue with that example. And I'm going to show you, this is something that, I do not own this prime chart. I got this from Google. So this is, for example, a prime chart that I'm going to attach. If you are in my class, you're going to see this on Google Classroom. And so what they do for you is, this is called a prime numbers chart. So if you look here, prime numbers chart. These should be highlighted in green. So if you look on Google Classroom, they should be green. However, I don't have a color printer, so they're gray. So each number that is highlighted or each number that is colored, that is a prime number. So how do you know which numbers are prime? You can use the definition, or sometimes when the numbers get really big, it's a little confusing to know which ones are prime. So you're going to use this prime chart to determine if you stop or if you continue working. Typically we're going to be using these smaller numbers. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a prime factor tree. This is how we're going to be factoring. And the reason we call it a tree is because it just looks like it's an upside down tree. So let's do I'm trying to think of a little bit of a smaller number to start us out with. Let's see if I can get an example here. There it is. So let's do something like, I don't know. I don't want to do anything too big. Well, let's do 36. We started out with 36, so let's do 36. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a tree. So you're going to create branches. So here's our main trunk, and we're going to create branches. So what did we know about 36? Give me 2 factors of 36. 2 numbers that multiply to equal to 36. And the one that I remember is 6 times 6. So 6 times 6 is 36. We go back to our factor chart, not our factor chart, our prime numbers chart. We notice that 6 is not highlighted. It's not shaded. That means 6 is not prime. So we continue factoring. The only time that you stop factoring is if you have prime. So 6, 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. So now we check 3 and 2. 3 and 2 both are highlighted and they are prime. So that means that we have some factors. So 36 has the factors, and we can continue this even further because 3 is 1 times 3, 2 is 1 times 2, 3 is 1 times 3, and 2 is 1 times 2. And typically what the teacher will have you do is to circle the very last all prime numbers. Sometimes they'll just stop here with 3, 2, 3, 2. Sometimes they'll have you go and continue. I'm probably going to have you stop here because I don't want you to get confused. But once you get a prime number, you're going to circle it. So even though we continued here, this is when we got our prime number, so I'm going to circle those. So that means that our factors of 36, our prime factors, are 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. So that means if I was to multiply 2 times 2, 3 times 3, well, actually, let's do that. So 36, 2 times 2, that is 4, times 3 times 3, 3 times 3, that is 9. 4 times 9 is 36, and we did a little mini check here. So let's do another practice with a factoring. We're going to do many practices in class. So let's do 42 now. So I'm going to draw a line so we know that this is example number 2. So 42, give me two numbers that multiply to 42. I'm going to say 2 and 21. 2 is prime. We know that because if I look at my chart, 2 is highlighted. 21, I know that is 7 times 3. 7 is prime, 3 is prime. Again, once you get that prime number, circle it. 7 is shaded, 3 is shaded, so 7 and 3 are prime. So that means that we have our factors, our prime factoring for 42 is I have 2, 3, 7. Now notice that I'm not writing 1. I can write 1 if you really want to, but 1 doesn't change anything. And then notice how I'm writing it from smallest to greatest numbers. That's just the format that you want to do it in. It looks prettier. All right, beautiful people. That is it for this video. We're going to do many, many more examples in class if you're in my class. If not, definitely do more practice, look up more videos for more work for you to do. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.